Hello, and welcome to Some Kind of Podcast. This is a podcast where we entertain you by discussing what entertains us. I'm Cody. I'll be this week's host, and as always, I'm joined by Tim.
Hello.
And Christian.
Hello.
So we're just going to jump right into today's topic because it is the. There's a lot. Let's just kick it off and talk about Falcon Winter Soldier. What'd you guys think?
It's definitely very Marvel-y, if that makes sense.
It's a Marvel for sure.
It is. They set the tone very early that I don't know if they were trying to make everything feel different and its own unique standalone kind of show, but like it definitely sets the tone very early that this ain't WandaVision.
Yeah.
There's gonna be no there's probably some like grand mystery sort of, like there's obviously going to be some underlying plot points that are going to play out, but it sets the tone really early. Like this isn't going to be an episode 4 tie-in, we're going to get you hooked kind of thing. Like right from the jump they're like action, like it's more like an action movie, like a Marvel. Like WandaVision was good for what it was, but it's also very different when you look at it in terms of like compared to all the Marvel movies, which is a little bit interesting to take, because the first Marvel show was very anti-Marvel-y in certain ways.
Yeah.
Whereas this one from the jump, it's just like, here you go. No.
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but watching this like instantaneously from the very beginning to the very end, if you watched any of the Captain America movies, this felt like point by point, like it was taking right out of one of those movies, which I thought was great because both these characters are the two main side characters from those movies.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, Tim, like this is the first Disney Plus Marvel show that I feel like actually kind of follows right alongside the MCU formula for kind of how they do their movies, whereas WandaVision was kind of just like a spin-off, like weird throwback show that I'm not sure will even ever get a sequel. And I mean, I of course don't really know if this will ever get a sequel. We don't even know. This is only the first episode. But I could totally see it happening. And then one of the things that I really liked is this is actually covering a bit about the blip and kind of going more into depth about how the world reacted when everyone just kind of came back.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man Far From Home kind of touched on it a little bit and focused more on just kind of like the humor side of things of like, hey, some kids are now like 5 years older. Some
Like
kids are like,
when the band showed back up in the middle of the basketball game,
Tuba player gets pegged by a basketball.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, so it's so they focused on most of like the humor side of things, but in this it kind of addressed like, hey, like the world almost collapsed when everyone just kind of came back because no one was prepared for it. Everyone just kind of reappeared. So like the economic of the world, like the economy is like kind of somewhat like on the fritz. At one point, Falcon tries to go and get a loan to save the family business, and they're saying that like, nothing's what it used to be. They're doing kind of a post blip determination as to whether people qualify for a loan or not.
Yeah.
And they're even talking about like, well, you don't even have financial records for the past 5 years, and they're like, it's because I wasn't here.
Yeah. I actually enjoy that. And obviously, like, I guess we didn't say at the beginning, we probably should say it now, spoilers alert, because we're going to go in depth into everything we're about to talk about today. If you haven't seen
this or the Snyder Cut, like,
stop listening.
Stop listening right now. Go watch them and then come back.
Yeah. So I really like that, like they're, exploring into the whole aspect of like, wow, it's cool everyone came back, that the blip does have like effects. It's not like,
right,
some other things where it's like everybody came back and the day was saved and everyone's happy. Like there's, obviously there's humorous things where, like the band comes back in the middle of the thing in Spider-Man, but obviously, like even in WandaVision touched on a little bit, like the hospital when all the patients
chaos
right
showed back up. That there is like a lot. I mean, like, it's the whole like what if this were to happen in real life? What would be the consequences of this? And one of them would be, economic troubles where like, okay, now you have people that have been gone for 5 years that need money and jobs, and what do you
Loans and everything.
what do you do with all that, and it's not really their fault, but at the same time, can you afford to give half the populace all that stuff back, like,
Right.
you know because it's one of those things after Infinity War and before Endgame, and obviously before pandemic, there was the whole thing of like, Thanos might have went about the wrong way, but he's not technically wrong. There are limited resources, and having less people would make things easier. So,
Well, that's why I like in the show when he's talking to his like military contact or whatever, and he brought up like there's terrorist groups that are pro
mhm.
Thanos. I almost said Trump. Uh, pro Thanos.
Not that we're expressing any political
Yeah, no
beliefs.
no political anything there. Yeah, they're pro Thanos, and that they were, angry that people came back. Which I thought was really interesting. I like that they did that because that's exactly what would have happened.
Mhm. I mean, it's a very realistic look on to like how we as humans would probably respond if a blip happened. Like, obviously, there would be a period of mourning,
Yeah.
and there would be a period of like, there would probably be like a day that we would all have where like
Oh yeah, it
we,
would be a national day of like
yeah.
remorse or
But at the end of the
something.
day, there would be people that would be like, yeah, I lost people, but for the betterment of like, they may even play into how the internet respond, like the whole like Thanos did nothing wrong thing.
Yeah.
And like these organizations would probably exist where it was just, especially like, could you imagine like, just imagine for a second, I'm not even trying to get in political or anything here, but like imagine if you lost somebody and then took over for that person's job, and that person came back and then wanted their job back, and it's not their fault if they
Right.
don't have, but it's not your fault either, so like what do you do?
And I think that's what they're going to start touching on, just stuff like that. At least that's what it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So it's very subtle, and I like the way they're doing it. Like, it's not a major plot point. I mean, it might be in Falcon and Winter Soldier based on the fact that the whole boat situation thing, but I like how they're subtly kind of like touching on it. I really like that aspect.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be something that they kind of briefly touch on throughout the season as it goes on. Like it'll be kind of stuff just happening in the background that'll kind of touch in on like the impact of the blip and everyone coming back. Um, but I am curious though, because like with this first episode, of course, again, spoilers, but like it leaves off with, there's this new guy that's become Captain America that's being the shield's been given to him, even though Falcon at the beginning of the episode donated the shield to, I think it was the Smithsonian or something.
Yeah, it was a Smithsonian where all of the Captain America like
Yeah.
history memorabilia was.
Yeah, essentially at the beginning, it kind of touches on the end of Endgame where Steve gives the shield to um,
Falcon.
Falcon. I can't think of his real name, not Anthony Mackie, but his character's name.
Sam?
It's Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gives the shield to Sam, and Sam says it feels like it's somebody else's. But
Mhm.
they hark on this really hard. Is that like
Are
Sam
they
thinks
yeah, they even played that audio clip.
that Sam feels like this is not his, almost like it's not his responsibility, but like he doesn't think he's almost worthy of taking up the mantle
Yeah.
of Captain America. So he donates the shield, and it's put in a glass case as if like it's just going to be on display, because there's this huge, massive Steve Rogers display where it shows all that stuff, which is kind of cool because there's a bunch of like propaganda posters and stuff that he did, and his bike is there, and his original costume is there. So it's really cool, and it gives you the thing of like, okay, I mean, as soon as he has the shield, that like the whole, it kind of sets the tone of like, okay, the whole plot is about him accepting the shield and getting it back somehow. So at the
Yeah.
end, when there's another Captain America that shows up, it's kind of like, okay, but you also kind of know that like he's kind of like the anti-villain.
Yeah, I don't know what his role is going to be, if it's going to be, in a antagonist role, or if it's just going to be like some nerd that they stuck in the costume and has no idea what he's doing and is, scared, you know,
Well,
absolutely out of his mind.
I like to say it was option one where he's like the antagonist, but if Iron Man 3 has proved anything, he could just be some nerd they stuck in a costume.
Right. Uh, so who knows? Like, obviously, that's one thing I don't like about Disney. Like, I appreciate and I hate the way that they do trailers
Mhm.
because, like, for I think it was Infinity War, they were very smart about it and they did like a whole thing where they had the Hulk CG'd into the fight, even though
Mhm.
the Hulk wasn't even part of that fight. Because it was the whole like he wouldn't come out of his shell kind of thing, and it was really the Hulkbuster.
Yeah.
So I like when they do little things like that, but like um, they've already shown Falcon and the Winter Soldier like training with the Shield,
Mhm.
so like we know they're gonna get it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, sometimes it is kind of frustrating to kind of, be shown one thing and then like when the movie comes out, it to be completely another thing. But at the same time, like I get why they do it. And like I do appreciate it on like a spoiler level and on like
Yeah,
just like a, throwing the entire audience on like some wild goose chase about some plot point that's not even part of the movie is like kind of genius in a way.
no,
Like
so
it's
like I
frustrating, but like I
appreciate
get.
it. I appreciate for what it is because they did it with Star Wars too. With
Mhm.
all the trailers, they made it look like Finn was a Jedi.
Mhm.
That he was the one that was going to be using the lightsaber, and that was
Yeah.
not the case out of the gate.
But this new guy, I did look it up the other day because I was curious, and apparently there's a character from the Marvel comics called the U.S. Agent,
Mm-hmm.
which apparently comes in and replaces Captain America at one point in the comics when Captain America gets fed up with his position and doesn't want to do exactly what the government tells him to do. And I guess this guy is just kind of like a yes man. Like he just will anything that the government tells him that they want him to do, go do this, go be the poster boy for this,
He just does it.
rally or whatever. He just does it with no questions asked. I don't know if that's going to be the role he plays here. If it does, I could definitely see it falling into that role that you guys were talking about him just being kind of the antagonist and about him being this like annoyance in the background. And then, Falcon and the Winter Soldier kind of go off and just do their own thing. I'm curious though, when they team up, if they're going to go do some like off the book things just on their own. Because they're just going to get fed up with the government and the way they're handling things and the way they just kind of gave the shield away and or if they're actually going to both team up and actually do like legit like assignments. Because like when Captain America, at least uh, MCU Captain America from the films, anytime all the time he went out and did an assignment up until Civil War, it was by like the government was telling him, "Hey, go do this, go do that."
Yeah.
It wasn't up until Civil War where he actually started to kind of go rogue. So I'll be
Yeah,
kind of curious to see where this plot goes.
yeah. I don't know because it again with the trailers. I mean, it showed them in like couples therapy with Bucky's therapist. So I don't know if it's just like they're both just like contract working or they're just out of the goodness of whatever they're just doing stuff for them or what. Because I mean
Hmm.
they obviously played on like money troubles,
Mm.
Right.
you know.
Yeah, and they even talked about like, like doing some like good faith work with Avengers and about how like it was never about the money. It was
Right.
always about just like for the betterment of the community, for the
I
betterment
think
of the
that
country and the world.
it's implied that at least Sam is doing contract work. It looks like that you know Bucky himself might just be like in some sort of program right now where he's sort of being monitored because he got the full immunity, but his therapist says like this is part of your immunity deal, so like, he might just be. We don't really know. He obviously living in an apartment somewhere. I guess I think in New York somewhere. I think that's what they were trying to imply. Where he was,
Yeah, it's either New York or Washington. Like I honestly I couldn't tell.
it might be in Washington because it would make sense because then there'd be a tie-in. But they also bounced around all over the place.
Yeah.
In this episode with areas, so who knows? Um, that Bucky's in therapy and has to like sort of make amends, which I want to bring into. Uh, how heartbreaking is it when you find out that that old man was the son that he killed, or the father of the son that
Oh
that guy
man,
killed?
I like
It was like his one buddy.
Yeah.
as soon as there was like the flashback of him killing the dudes, and then the Asian guy trying to get through the door, and he shoots him. I was like, man, they're gonna do some. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, see, I didn't put that two and two together because the flashback happens before you meet Yuri, which is
Yeah,
the old.
well, as soon as as Yuri showed up, I was like, either it's the same guy,
Mm.
and he didn't actually kill him, or it's his kid.
I didn't even put that together until the scene at the bar where they're talking about like the red bean
Yeah.
thing, and then I was like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
that's his dad." So I totally bit hard on it. They swerved me. I did not pick up on that. I just assumed it was just some angry old man.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh no, that's his only friend."
And like you mentioned one time before, Tim, like as far as like the pacing of this episode, like at the beginning, they started off with that cool fight scene where Falcon was kind of, going after those terrorists.
And
But
flying
then for the do what?
like zipping around in the air and all that.
Yeah. But kind of for the remainder of the episode, there wasn't really any sort of fight sequences. It was kind of just world building and kind of explaining, hey, what's going on in the world and where the show might go.
Mm.
Which I get. I mean, again, it's only first episode. But other than like saying like, hey, this new, I don't know if they're going to call him Captain America or call him U.S. agent or what the heck they're going to call him. Other than him being kind of probably an antagonist of some point, there's not really like a direction that we know for
Pretty
where
sure
this is going to go.
At the end of the episode, they introduce him as the new Captain America.
Oh, is that what they actually said?
I'm pretty sure that dude, whoever
Yeah,
it is,
right at the end, they introduced him as the new Captain America.
Yeah, he said we have a new Captain America,
Yeah.
and then he comes out.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, so like I know on like Spider-Man, and sometimes they refer to like, social media and like how like, the general population takes situations, or how you guys were saying before about how like, the internet might have reacted to the blip both before and after everyone came back. I'm curious how like the world, especially America in this MCU, will react to them just being like, here's the new guy. Like, I
Yeah.
can't see that being like a popular thing where everyone's like, hey, cool, we got another one. It's like, what are you doing? Like, he just died. Like, what? Well, I guess so. And that's another thing.
Right,
At the
'cause, like,
beginning of this episode, they kind of alluded that he's gone, but did he die, or are they just saying that he like
No.
retired and he
don't-
went away?
I think it's alluded that he died. I think so. In the end of Endgame, obviously he's on the bench, but I'm pretty sure like they just went like, he's gone. Like even if Steve Rogers is still alive, no one knows it's.
Yeah,
Captain America.
I think they either are implying that everyone believes he died in the battle against Thanos,
Mhm.
or maybe the government is aware that he went to take the stones back and then just didn't come back.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So it's like this show takes place only a couple months after the end
Right.
of Endgame. So like Steve Rogers didn't die at the end of Endgame, so you have to assume that like, unless they explicitly state it in the next couple episodes that he is alive in some way.
Yeah,
He just is retired and doesn't want to be Captain America anymore and just wants to live a life of peace.
I could see him still being alive and making a cameo appearance, and
Mhm.
like talking Sam back into it or something. Maybe even like on his deathbed or something.
Yeah, maybe he dies in the show.
You know.
But it's one of those things where like it's a book, movie, TV show trope. Like unless you see a body, that doesn't mean they're dead.
Right.
Yeah.
No, there was no funeral for Steve Rogers, so
it definitely hinted at an Endgame that he went back and kind of pursued his relationship with Peggy, and so I would be curious to know, like, is there like a little baby out there, or like I guess at this point like young adult?
Well,
don't know who this guy is.
Oh, so you're saying that like you think it might just be his kid?
it might be his kid.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We don't know who this guy is. It didn't look like any actor I know, and I don't know anything about the story. But even if there was a story that's referencing to Disney likes to do their own thing, so it could be.
Right.
I want to say, and I don't quote me because I don't know for sure, but I feel like they somebody tweeted about it, or or made an official post about it that when Cap went back, he created an alternate timeline with Peggy.
Okay.
So
So that's like its own thing that doesn't exist in the MCU that they're showing on screen.
I think, and I'm not sure how he would have gotten back to them,
I was
which
gonna
is
say
why
that
it
was my
didn't make it.
question.
It was like kind of a plot hole in itself.
Yeah. Because like if theoretically if that was true, then he wouldn't have been able to show up on the bench like he did. He
Right,
would have
and
just been gone.
I've watched the Peggy Carter show, so I don't know how that would have worked. Like, at what point he went back to get the stone. Like, I don't know. I'm assuming it's after the show. And I mean, it could have just been in that timeline, and maybe he's just old somewhere. Maybe they have a
Yeah.
kid. Maybe this guy is Cap's kid. Maybe
I mean, I doubt that because they're probably not going to go that route, but you never know.
you never know. I mean, they could do any number of things. They could, like, I don't know. They could go so many different weird routes.
I mean, we still have like what 5, 6 episodes left.
Yeah, I do think it started off way better than WandaVision did.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
Again, that's just my biased opinion because I am not a fan of the black and white old school TV show sitcom thing.
I mean, it is what it is for somebody, not you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that there's people that loved it, and I know I'm not the only one that didn't like it.
No.
So, but I think Falcon Winter Soldier, it definitely, like you said, like it felt like a Marvel movie.
Mhm.
Like the Disney obviously put money behind it, so like the cinematography actually felt like, you know, all the other Marvel movies. It felt like
I mean,
they put time into it.
put money behind WandaVision too, but
I'm not saying they didn't, but like until like there were moments in WandaVision that I was like, yeah, I could see that being part of a movie, but then it immediately ruined it and went to a weird place. Like,
I mean, WandaVision was based off of like one of the relevant television shows, so it definitely felt more like TV-ish, where like this
right.
felt like a TV movie.
Yeah. Like I don't know. It was like the difference between something streaming on Hulu versus HBO Max or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I guess it's if you told me Wanda was a TV show, I'd be like, that's cool. But if you told me that like I keep must say Captain America, Falcon Winter Soldier was a mini series, I'd be like, yeah, that
yeah,
makes
that
sense.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I hope that they go. I don't know how many episodes there's gonna be, but hopefully they don't like do
I heard there's
the.
like 6 or 7. I think they're all going to be longer too.
Okay, well, I hope that's the case, and I hope they don't do the BS red herring nonsense where they're like, "Hey, here's Quicksilver. Psych, his name's Ralph Boner."
It was definitely a Mandalorian, not a Mandalorian, Mandarin
Yeah.
swerve.
I do, however, I think that WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, I don't know about Loki. Uh, I think these shows, though, for the most part, are all going to be one-offs.
Yeah.
I feel like they're just going to lead into the movies going forward. Like they're just going to paint a big picture, and then the movies are going to be like crossovery.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Doctor Strange movie, since that's supposed to be all about Wanda and Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I could see it. Or even like instead of having like a season 2 of like 2 or 3 of the different shows, it's like it called something different, and then it just pulls a bunch of the different ones from the different shows together.
Yeah, I hope they just get a little bit more creative with their titles, because the last 2 shows have been Wanda Vision, and those are the 2 main characters in it. And this one's this one is Falcon Winter Soldier, and those are the two people in it.
And the next one is Loki, and he's the
and that's the dude in it. Like, all right, can we get these are all one-offs, fine. But like, if you're trying to do shows, can we get a little bit more creative? with the
That's
names?
the other reason I feel like they're just one-offs. But at the same time, you could argue that Mandalorian is just about the Mandalorian, and there's multiple seasons. So I don't know. Disney is in a weird headspace, I feel. But that's
I mean, they're also kind of stuck on the whole. They're trying to do somewhat their own thing, but they're still trying to base most of what they do off of the comics.
yeah.
Because I mean, you can say the same thing about all the main movies. Like Iron Man is about Iron Man. Like Black Widow is about
True.
Black Widow.
True. I guess. I mean, that's fair. It's just
I know where you're coming from. Like I feel you, but
like,
yeah,
this is the Falcon Winter Soldier show.
but I
Starring
mean,
Falcon
you
and Winter Soldier.
you look at the movies, and Christian's right. I mean, it's Iron Man and
I mean, I
Thor
didn't think
and
about
Black
it.
Widow and
I didn't think about it like that, so I guess it does make sense.
Captain America. Like
Yeah, yeah. All right.
hell,
Move on. Move on.
one of them is literally Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which is why you keep referencing it. But
Maybe that is why.
no,
Maybe
I really like it's a legitimate movie. Like it exists.
that could be why I keep doing that, because I definitely want to say Captain America and the Winter Soldier,
Yeah,
because that was the movie.
which is probably why they made the title. They were like, "Hey, we got a movie called Captain America and the Winter Soldier. We'll just make the show Falcon and the Winter Soldier."
I mean, he might become the Captain America.
He
by the end of
could.
it.
And then what? Do you have another Captain and the Winter Soldier movie? Like Fast and Furious, except instead of the Fast and Furious, it's just
Captain
Fast
America,
and Furious.
the Winter Soldier
Yeah.
2, Electric Boogaloo.
Like, no, the next one will be the Captain America and the Winter Soldier. You just have to put the there to,
Yeah,
to distinguish the two movies.
technically the show is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right.
So so as far as like, people like being like, the nemesis or like enemy in the show, like we talk about like the new Captain America might be, they definitely alluded that this terrorist group is going to play a role of some sort throughout this first season.
What are they called?
With
Like
this-
Flag and or something?
I can't remember. I know that the main villain is the dude from Civil War.
Hmm.
Is it?
The guy that like they took
So
down
war, they fight each other.
at the because the guy hijacked Bucky.
Oh, yeah.
That guy. In one of the trailers, it's him.
Okay. The guy with the mask?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I don't know how they're gonna play into that, unless I'm just like seeing shit. But like I'm pretty sure that that's who it is.
I mean, you might be right. I'm pretty sure I saw an advertisement for Falcon and the Winter Soldier that did have a guy like in a mask. But I mean, to be fair, most people in a superhero film have a mask.
Have a mask on.
But yeah, no. So I definitely feel like that terrorist group is going to play a big role, especially when they kept referring back to Sam's buddy, who was still doing like recon work overseas. I couldn't really figure out where they were. Middle East somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, like he had that run in when he was trying to track people down. I guess as they were doing like a heist from like a bank or something, and then he kind of got beat up. So I definitely think
wrecked.
I definitely think that like I don't know, I could see it going somewhere where like Sam gets really fed up with the way they handled the shield thing and passed it along, and chooses to kind of like just do his own thing and go help his buddy overseas fight the fight against the terrorist, and then the Winter Soldier tags along for some reason because he wants to get away from all the people whose some relatives he's killed at some point.
Okay, so apparently it's 6 episodes long.
Okay.
And that dude is in it.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. Daniel Bruhl. It's
he got-
BRU with 2 dots HL.
Oh, has it?
So-
No.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of Age of Ultron, I could have sworn he got blown the crap up by his own bomb.
No, that was
Mm-mm.
Crossbones. Or
Yeah, that was
something?
Crossbones.
Yeah,
Okay, different guy with
Yeah.
a different mask.
That was
Yeah,
the
see,
one-
it
this
was
is what
another
I'm talking
masked guy.
about.
that was the one that Wanda threw into the building.
Yeah. This guy, like after their like fight, they like arrested him.
Okay.
And he is apparently in 5 episodes out of 6. So he
Oh.
should be in the one next week.
All right. Oh.
Okay. I know Peggy's niece, I think. is in this as well. The blonde-haired lady. I can't remember the actress's name.
I know who you're talking about. Sharon Carter. She's also in
Yeah.
5 episodes.
Yeah, so I feel like this first one was probably world building. This next one's probably going to get really like introducing all the extra characters and
Yeah.
straight into like the plot of what's going to be the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Unless they follow the WandaVision formula, and they won't get into that till like episode 4.
God, I hope not. But it sounds like we're gonna get 6.
They started episode 1 like they should have started episode 1 of WandaVision.
Yes.
I liked
Yes.
WandaVision, but
I like WandaVision overall.
they should have alluded to what was going on in that first episode besides just ending it.
I agree. All right, let's move on to the next one because it's a big one.
Oh, it's 4 hours long.
4 hours long. The Snyder Cut.
Trying to fit this movie in order to like review this for the podcast was such a challenge. To like, you don't realize that you only have 4 hours to sit down and watch a movie until you try to sit down and watch a
4 hour long movie. This is why, like, I haven't watched the Lord of the Rings movies that I own because for whatever reason I can't read fine print, and when I bought them on Blu-ray, I bought the extended versions.
Those are the best ones, though.
I love Lord of the Rings, but I don't need 3 hours of walking.
If you watch Clerks 2, you have watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
Just saying it.
Yeah, it's true.
My dude Randall spells it out.
It's true. All right. So Snyder Cut.
Sorry for anyone that likes Lord of the Rings. I like Lord of the Rings too, but that was just a funny joke that I think is accurate.
Yes, Justice League Snyder Cut.
Snyder Cut.
Snyder Cut.
That's the next movie, the Snyder Cut. All right, so before we get into like the meat and potatoes of it, just I just like overall, did you think it was better than the original 2017 Joss Whedon version of Justice League?
Tim?
All right, so I said this before, we got on to record with when I was just talking to you guys, and I'll say it again here. I watched the Justice League 2016, you said?
2017, I think.
2017, yeah. I watched that movie one time when it came out. And, I mean, it was better than Batman versus Superman.
Sure.
But I don't really remember a lot of what happened in the Joss Whedon cut. I remember enjoying it. Like I said, it wasn't, I still think that the original Wonder Woman, maybe Aquaman, is probably the best of the DC Universe movies I've seen outside of obviously the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, because it's not part of the DCU or the DCEU, whatever. So outside of that trilogy, Wonder Woman is probably my favorite. But when I watched this, like I said, I don't remember exactly what happened in the original Justice League movie, but like when I was watching this, it made more sense to me. And I remember the original Justice League movie not making that much sense to me. So just from that aspect alone, I enjoyed it more. But overall, if I had to pick between the two, I'm going to give it to the Snyder Cut. But and I'm sure we're going to get into it, there's two things that bother me about the Snyder Cut. One, it's 4 hours long. Two, the aspect ratio bothers me. For those of you that don't know, first of all, I don't know why you're still listening to this, because you should go watch the movie before we get into the review, unless you don't want to watch it. It's in 4:3, which 4:3 is like the old boxed television version where you had the bars on the bottom, because everything's in 16:9 now. So it is a little difficult to watch because I'm so used to 16:9 now.
Yeah, it's square as opposed to widescreen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you worked in the movie theater industry, it's flat versus scope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before I get into what I was going to say, so I saw an article that was talking about why the choice was made on that, and I guess because a lot of the film is close-ups on like people's faces, they wanted to be able to show like the full face, and there was a comparison shot from like the Snyder Cut versus the original, and I guess especially a lot of the ones with Batman, like you could only see like his face and like the top part of like the mask. You can even see like the little bat horn ear things. Whereas like in the Snyder cut, you could actually see his full face. Plus you could see like the goggles sitting on top of his head.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
there is a warning before the movie starts that says, it's in 4:3
Yeah.
because that's the way Zack Snyder wanted it.
right. As far as the length, I think I'm in one of the weird category of people that like, if it's a 4 hour long movie, but there's a lot of like world building and build up, I'm game. Like I love those films so much.
I
As you were
always
saying a
say,
second ago.
that I don't like that it's 4 hours because it's so hard to watch because it's so long.
No, yeah,
I agree that it should have been 4 hours. It's hard to watch because it's 4 hours.
I will say that this film, the way it's broken down into parts, I think there was like 8 parts or something like that.
6.
It makes it really easy to like, especially since it's on HBO, to just like, okay, I'm at a new like part 4. Just, okay, I'm gonna pause here and I'll watch the rest later.
You can almost watch it like a mini series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is kind of episodic in that way, and I actually enjoyed that because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like I said, I'm trying to fit this movie in. I had to stop watching at a certain point because about halfway through the movie, I started falling asleep because it's I was watching it late at night. So
Yeah. And I think you kind of touched on it earlier, Tim, but this one Snyder Cut did a much better job about building backstories for all these characters and actually explaining what's going on in this world.
mhm.
Because think back into when the original one launched. Okay, that was before Aquaman came out. They didn't have
Yeah.
a Flash movie out, so no one knew exactly what, or at least the general population didn't know what that story was.
The only movie that came
Cyborg
out, I
didn't,
think, was Batman versus Superman. Yeah,
It was Man of Steel
And
and
Wonder
Batman
Woman.
versus Superman and Wonder Woman. Yeah.
and so yeah, and then so Cyborg wasn't explained either. And so in the original film, they kind of touched on it like very briefly, but they kind of just like glossed over it and we're like, cool, and we're moving forward. Okay, now fights are happening and things are going off, and everyone's like, okay, I don't really know what's happening.
Yeah.
So in this one, they actually like with Aquaman's world, for example, they actually brought in like Willem Dafoe, which is plays his mentor from the Aquaman movies,
Mhm.
and actually explain like, hey, you need to take up the mantle of your mom and like actually fulfill your your duties to become the new king of Atlantis. And like in the original film, it just didn't cover any of that. It was just
Yeah.
like, it showed the one scene where Bruce goes to like that one like fish village trying to find Aquaman and say like, hey, I'm making a team, come join me. But other than that, that was his introduction into the movie. There was no like before that introduction as to like what his character actually was.
Yeah, and he also he had like 5 lines in the original Justice League movie. Like
Yeah.
he didn't like
Most of them was screaming.
yeah. Like outside of like when Cyborg catches him and he's like, "My man," like that was essentially it. Like
Yeah,
his role was so small in the original
He
Justice
had
League.
that scene in Iceland in the beginning of the movie, which is still in there, and then he had the scene where they're all meeting up together, and then he had the fight scene, and then that was basically it for Aquaman,
Yeah.
which is a shame because Jason Momoa as Aquaman is arguably one of the best characters. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, like I don't necessarily like. I think the casting was always done really well in the DC universe. With okay, personal opinion here, I still don't really get why they cast Ben Affleck as Batman. I still don't quite get that. That is the one casting choice out of the whole crew where I'm just
Is
like,
he better than Robert Pattinson?
well,
We don't know
okay,
yet.
so
I
yeah,
know.
one, we don't know, but two, Robert Pattinson's playing, I think, like a young Batman, like whereas Ben Affleck's like on the upper end where he's playing like older Batman.
Yeah.
I personally like this isn't off topic, but I personally want Robert Pattinson to kill it as Batman, just to have all these people like have to eat their words, kind of like they did with Heath Ledger when he was the Joker.
I'd
Like, I
love to
want
see
him-
it.
yeah.
I'd love to
I
see
want
it.
him to like knock it out the park to be like, you like Batman? He's Edward Cullen.
Yeah.
Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, so and I'm with you though, Tim, when you said before about how your favorite DC film was Wonder Woman. It's definitely one of my top films as far as modern day. I love the Christian Bale Batman movies.
Those are my favorite, top tier.
My absolute favorite. I also enjoyed Aquaman. I do like Jason Momoa's casting, and I do hope there's a sequel to that film.
Amber
But my
Heard won't be in it.
absolute- Huh?
Amber Heard won't be in it.
Or she'll be recast.
Yeah, she'll be recast. Her character will be recast
Oh, that's right.
because of the Johnny
That
Depp
big-
stuff.
Yeah.
Because it came out that she was full of shit and she got dropped. Yeah.
They dropped like a bad
Yeah.
habit.
So
Yeah.
I think they were actually talking about casting Emilia Clarke to replace him.
Oh,
I'll take
interesting.
that.
They get along well, so.
Yeah.
Like the Mother Dragons. Hey.
But yeah, so my absolute favorite DC film, which I hate this because it's not even like canon as of right now. I think they could technically, depending on what they do with Robert Pattinson's character in that universe.
You talking about
But
the Joker?
Joker,
Yeah.
yeah, Joaquin Phoenix freaking killed it. I didn't think anybody could ever get up to par with Heath Ledger's performance as Joker, but like he nailed it. I absolutely love that film. I went to see it in theaters, and going in, I was like, it's a DC film. Like, I'm sure it'll be okay. And I was like, this is super dark. This is really depressing, but this is kind of like the tone I wanted from a DC film. I wanted it to be the more like darker, like, oh crap, like crap's happening. And that's another thing with the Snyder cut. Like people like got their limbs cut off. There was like blood
Oh yeah,
flowing
Wonder
everywhere. I was
Woman.
like, oh crap.
Wonder Woman murdered people
Yeah.
Yeah.
just straight up.
He definitely leaned into the R rating.
But that's the thing. Like Snyder likes to make dark, gritty movies, and
He made Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. So let's pump the brakes a little bit.
When it comes to live action movies, his movies are dark and gritty. We're not talking about the Guardians of Ga'Hoole.
I'm saying it's the same person.
It is the same person. Look,
Everybody's got to start somewhere.
everybody's got a weird.
It was not his.
That was the middle of his career.
Yeah. It was his midlife crisis.
Yeah, no, it was. It was exactly what it was. It was a midlife crisis. Everybody's got that one.
Because didn't he do Man of Steel too? He did Man of Steel.
Yeah. Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman.
Well,
that's why it's called the Snyderverse. And they're hoping that WB will see how well this movie did and let him continue the Snyderverse.
I mean, if you want my opinion, I hope so.
I do too.
But what were you saying before, Christian? I'm sorry. I think we interrupted you. You're talking about the Joker.
I was probably just some side tangent about how that was cool, and I hope it's canon.
Well,
it could be canon because it takes place like, really, really early. Like obviously Thomas Wayne was still alive.
Well,
right.
What I'm about to say kind of ties into all of this is that when it comes to is Zack Snyder will continue with the Snyder universe, well, it kind of depends because now that you have Robert Pattinson, is Ben Affleck going to come back as Batman? Is the Snyderverse different from the other movies that they're trying to do? Because personally, I like the Joker, but I kind of want it to stand on its own. I don't want Joaquin Phoenix to come back and be the Joker again. I kind of want it just to be its own thing.
Well, that's the thing.
Personally,
I don't think he would come back. If they did, it would be a direct sequel to his Joker movie. But I think the whole idea was that his Joker inspires the true Joker. Like he was the starting point, and then the Joker that Batman faces is a different person.
kind of like what they're trying to do in Gotham.
Yeah. I think they're gonna go that route. Like, I don't think Joaquin Phoenix will be in another Batman movie unless he shows up as an older Joker in the Robert Pattinson Batman. Because we don't know how dark that movie's going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it depends. Like, so is Ben Affleck going to come back as Batman, or are they going to replace him with? Because okay, so real talk. At the end of the Snyderverse movie, the Snyder Cut, there's a scene between Batman and Martian Manhunter, and Martian Manhunter was not in the original Justice League movie. The Joss Whedon version.
No, he wasn't.
I don't think. But you actually see him and Batman have a conversation, and it clearly was filmed after the blowback from all the Batmans that Ben Affleck had done, and you can kind of just tell that Ben Affleck's kind of over being Batman, but he came back to film this one scene because he just looks so it could also be how he's playing it, because it is portrayed like he just woke up from a nightmare or something, but he just is kind of yeah, whatever, I guess I'll see you.
Yeah, I think when Ben Affleck went into rehab and all that stuff, I want to say he he said something along the lines of like he would come back if Snyder was in control.
So maybe that's why he came back and did the scene, because I think that's the only thing he refilmed. I don't know
I
if the
think
scene.
it's the only thing he refilmed, unless they did the epilogue scene with the Joker after the fact as well.
Yeah,
And I don't know.
it's hard to
Um,
tell.
but like I am in the minority boat. I think Ben Affleck is great as older Batman. I personally am a fan.
I never had a
Um,
problem with it. I mean, I didn't like Batman versus Superman because the story was
the story
garbage.
was just garbage.
Yeah, but like I
Um,
think Ben Affleck did a good job. I mean, to me, Batman will always be Michael Keaton because that's the first Batman I ever saw. But as you know, a different version of Batman playing a much older, darker version after he loses Jason Todd to the Joker and whatnot.
yeah.
I think Ben Affleck did a good job. I mean, Batman's always been edgelord anyway, but he did a good job of playing, a much more like brooding edgelord, so to speak.
Um, yeah. So I don't know about you, Christian. Obviously, Tim, you haven't watched it recently. Have you seen the Joss Whedon cut recently at all in the last like year or two?
No,
Okay.
I haven't.
Um, I think I watched it a few months ago. I need to rewatch it just to get the full take on it. But like I like you were saying earlier, I think in general where the 4 hours came from, because I'm with you. If a movie is taking the time to flesh out stuff and give a good story, I'm all about the 4 hours. Um,
Never said I had a
I
problem with
didn't
the
say you had. I didn't say you had a problem. I'm just saying, like,
thing. It makes the movie hard to watch if it's 4 hours long.
right, and it doesn't for me unless it's like Lord of the Rings and it's just 3 hours of walking. Then I personally can't make it through, and I fall asleep halfway through. Um, but with this, I was pretty hooked throughout the whole thing. Like I took a break to go get lunch because I started early and I was like, oh, it's noon. I should go get some food. Oh, I'm only halfway through this movie. That's fine. I'll come back.
Yeah.
Um, but
Maybe
like,
I'm a bit old fashioned, but I don't like to take breaks in my movie.
So I will say though that one of the biggest things about this movie that I think they could have, it could have easily been anywhere between the 2 hour mark to 3 hour mark instead of 4 hours if they hadn't rushed trying to do the Justice League too early. They only had the world building out there for Wonder Woman and Batman.
yeah.
That was it.
Well,
Aquaman was
Well,
on its
and
way.
Superman.
Oh, and Superman. Aquaman was on its way, but Cyborg, Flash, like
Well,
I think they had to
Aquaman.
explain all of that in the movie. And had they just waited until those characters could have gotten their own film or show or whatever
Well,
to explain that on there,
I think
then they would have
the
to do that in the show or in the movie.
the problem with Cyborg, and I think there's still problems going on with Cyborg. There was issues between the actor and either the producer. I can't remember. There was some kind of controversy that um, somebody was like super racist to him while they were filming, or something like that,
Hmm.
and there was all kinds of controversy. But I think in terms of like why we didn't have a Cyborg movie is the same reason we don't have a Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie, because they didn't think it would work.
I mean, I get that, but
after
like,
after the failure of all the other Hulk movies, they didn't do one. So I feel like they were like, people don't really know Cyborg like that.
think they were just trying, me personally, they were just trying to be so different from Marvel
Yeah.
that instead of doing individual movies that leads up to the Justice League, they were trying to like, here's all the Justice League characters. Now go out and see what they're doing when they're not in the Justice League.
Yeah. And I think when they brought Joss Whedon on, he tried to do it in a very Marvel way, because if you've watched his cut of the movie is very bright and colorful. Not just in like Superman's suit, but like the tone and the atmosphere is all very bright and colorful. Like there were a lot of reds and very vibrant purples and stuff like that, and blues. And then when Snyder went in there, it was very dull and gray and like light blues, and it was just very dark in terms of the tone and visuals.
I guess you
Right.
haven't mentioned this at all, but Darkseid wasn't even in.
Yeah, Darkseid wasn't even a part of the the original cut of the movie, I guess. His name was mentioned, but that was it.
So, um, and I really liked everything, and including I guess most of the new scenes were with him. Everything they did with the Flash.
Oh, if they, I want to say they already greenlit a Flash movie.
I don't know.
If they haven't, they should at this point, because I could easily see a Flash movie with him. And they also like from the Joss Whedon cut to the Snyder cut, the Flash, his story changed dramatically. Not just because they added stuff, like by having him meet his future wife.
There is a Flash movie set for 2022.
Okay, good. Um, Obviously they introduced his future wife, Iris West.
Mm-hmm.
And they even threw in some comedy where he put a hot dog in his pocket for the dogs. But like, aside from that, like when they went to save those hostages in the Joss Whedon cut, he like freaks out and doesn't do anything. And I think it's Batman or
It is Batman.
is it Batman? He's like, just save one person, and then see how you feel. And he goes in there and saves one guy, and then he's like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. But in the Snyder cut, he's just on it.
Mm-hmm.
He's just kicking ass and doing it.
Less of a wimp.
Yeah. And then they cut out the whole like weird Russian family and people living in that apartment complex where he pushed them out in the truck, and then Superman just like lazily flew an entire building past him.
I mean, that was pretty.
It was funny. It was funny.
Josh Whedon humor, though.
But that's the thing, like the original cut. I keep calling it the original cut. I feel like Snyder Cut was the original cut, but the Whedon cut.
It was the original cut that was released, so go with the original cut.
Original cut felt more like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like it was humorous. It was bright. It was very action packed. It was just like it just hit the points. Like there was no like build up. It was just like, all right, we got to find them. Cool, we found him. Let's find him. All right, cool, we found him. Let's find this guy. Cool, we got him. All right, let's go fight. Like there was very little build up. Whereas this one was like, okay, let's take an hour and build every one of these characters up.
Yeah.
Because like in the Joss Whedon cut, you see Batman like in the start of the movie. Like he's like the first thing you see in the Snyder
Aquaman.
And in the Snyder cut, you don't see Batman in the like the suit for like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the very beginning, he's like attacking some dude on a roof, and he's like the creepy alien thing flies by.
Mm-hmm. So, three things that are really stand out to me that I really enjoyed that I remember from the original one that I enjoyed that they did in the Snyder Cut was, first of all, things pay off. For instance, when we're dropping the cube, and the Flash is like, if I go beyond the speed of light, weird things start to happen with time. And they kind of, they show like this cube is dropping, and then he gets to the point where he's at the speed of light because the cube starts to come back up. Like it's actually like reversing time, which pays off later with the conclusion of the movie. So I'm glad that they did that. I'm glad that the epilogue was that weird vision that Batman had in the middle of the movie that made no sense in Justice League. And in fact, I remember when we were talking about the Justice League when it first ended, I was like, what was the purpose of that vision? It actually makes more sense in the epilogue of the Snyder Cut.
It was in Batman versus Superman.
Was it really?
Yeah, okay. It was Batman versus Superman, because in Batman versus Superman, he has the dream, and then he also has a dream vision or whatever where the Flash comes through a portal.
Yeah. I'm glad they paid that off, because it never made sense to me up until I watched that epilogue.
Yeah.
And then the third one is that like it's still kind of the same, because even though it's a Snyder Cut and there's different scenes and it feels like a different movie, ultimately it is the same movie. uh in the Joss Whedon cut, it was Superman shows up, LOL, the end.
Yeah, no, Superman showed up and he was like, "Hey guys, don't worry about it. I'm here now,
Yeah,
and
and it was basically like
it's
everyone's
over
like,
now."
"Yay,
Yeah,
Superman!"
like the most he struggled was pulling the boxes apart with Cyborg, and that was
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Whereas,
Whereas this one, like, yes, it still is about reviving Superman, and they do say they can't do it without Superman.
yeah,
There is an outcome where it doesn't even matter if Superman was there or not.
yeah,
In fact, he gets like
yeah,
obliterated at
they
one.
all get obliterated, and then the
Yeah,
Flash goes reverses time
and saves them
and
all.
saves them all, and I thought that was beautiful.
I was like, thank you, because Superman, this is why I don't like Superman, is because he's essentially the ultimate trump card. Like,
Yeah,
he can just beat anybody. And as soon as he shows up, the day is saved and everyone goes out in their major ways. Like, it's supposed to be a collection of heroes. They're all supposed to support. That's what the beauty of the Avenger is that they all have strengths and weaknesses. And Superman's only weakness is Krypton. So if it's not Krypton, then he can just beat the crap out of anything.
his
Now, admittedly, he does punk
oh
Steppenwolf pretty
hard,
hard.
but like it was so much more badass when he showed up, and then like the axe hits him in the clavicle, and he's just like not impressed, and then
Yeah.
just shatters it. I was like,
okay,
oh,
that's kinda
like honestly, his character felt like Captain Marvel in Endgame.
yeah,
Like showed up at the end, was obviously OP. Like that's fine.
yeah.
That's totally cool.
I liked it more as opposed to the Joss Whedon verse.
Oh
Where he just
yeah,
showed up, like, I saved the day, and everybody, you're welcome. I'm gonna go bang Lois Lane now.
yeah.
Speaking of which, segue into that, did you guys notice the like zoom in when she went to get something out of her side drawer and there's the pregnancy test in there that was
Yeah.
positive?
Yes, I did see that. Yes, I thought that was a very subtle hint.
Yep.
Yep.
I did. See that. Now it's never shown like if she was actually pregnant or not, but I do like the little subtle nod.
The
to
nod that she could be pregnant.
yeah, with Superboy.
Yeah.
No,
No,
and I also
that
like
was
the
good.
fact that Superman was in a black suit. I thought the black suit was
The
really
black
good.
suit was one. It's accurate to the comics.
Yeah,
So it looks so good. And I gotta give my biased animation props to the visual effects team that worked on this movie, because not only did they completely change Steppenwolf's look, like his armor went from like the goofy like Greek armor, medieval armor that was slightly Greek, to like the weird like organic metal thing that he had going on.
It was constantly like flickering
Yeah.
around.
Oh, so cool. So
I will
cool.
admit that I forgot what Steppenwolf looked like, so I didn't. I mean, I still appreciated his look. I still thought he looked cool, but I couldn't remember if that was different or
It's
not.
very different. He
Very
he looks really really weird in the original.
Yeah.
And I also give them props because that's all the way they filmed it. Superman is wearing the blue suit, but they color corrected everything to make it the black and silver suit.
Okay.
And when Snyder was filming those scenes, he told him to act like he's not wearing the blue suit. Like when you look at it, like, and he's like, you know, that moment, like he's like, imagine you're wearing a black suit.
Yeah.
So like, oh, so good.
Mm-hmm.
They put so much work into that.
Yeah, I now understand why it took a year and a half for him to release it, because they definitely like I said, it's essentially, you know, overarching plot. It's essentially the
Yeah,
same.
the plot is
One
for the
time.
most part the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they
But,
actually
yeah,
showed Darkseid.
Yeah, they actually put a lot of effort into it, because when originally I heard the Snyder Cut, I was like, what major differences could there be? You know what I mean? But now watching it, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well,
There's
again,
2 hours
I
of
haven't-
differences.
I haven't seen, the original version. I know you kind of watched it before we started recording this. But to hear that there is, like, obviously, 2 hours of added things, but there also is like little subtle things like the Lois Lane thing, or the way Steppenwolf looks,
Yeah.
or even some of the subtle backstories like Cyborg and the Flash one. I appreciate those things. That's why, like, even though the movie is 4 hours long, I appreciate it's 4 hours long, because it makes the movie make sense.
Yeah.
Instead of having things that are implied, they explicitly show and tell you things.
Yeah. That and Martian Manhunter
Yes.
posing as Clark's mom when he
Mhm.
talked to Lois Lane. Apparently that was in the original storyboard, and then when Joss Whedon got there, he was like, "Nah, I'm not doing that."
Interesting. Interesting.
Because Snyder apparently tried to make it set up that that general character was Martian Manhunter the whole time.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah.
So
I'd love to see the conversation between the mom and Lois Lane. Just like, hey, thanks for coming to visit me, and like
that was like
you drop by, and she's like, what are you talking about?
At the end when she's like Superman or Clark or whatever.
That was like, her.
Is there gonna be no? I was like, but is there gonna be an awkward moment where she like they realize that like that wasn't her?
I'm assuming it happened off screen, but like that would be great if they do make another Snyderverse movie. If they have a moment where she's like, like I don't know that I would have made it through some of those times, especially when you came to visit me, before he came back, and she'd be like, huh? I didn't come visit, and then somebody walks in and distracts them. Like,
I also appreciate like I said, the little cell things where it's like I think even you mentioned it when we were talking once that Lois Lane is actually there when Superman gets reanimated.
Yeah,
not just a plot device for Batman.
Because they put in all the scenes of her giving coffee to that cop, and then it made sense that she showed up to give coffee to that same cop. And that she was already there, and it wasn't like, Alfred, bring in the big guns. And then she just happened to be there with Alfred, and it was like, okay, you got.
So was that fight scene extended?
Yeah, a little bit. It was modified and extended just a little bit.
Because I remember obviously one of the coolest scenes in the original one, and in this one is like when the Flash is like going really fast.
Yeah.
You can man's eyes kind of move, and you're like, oh man, he can see him, and then he starts moving just a little bit slower than the Flash, because the Flash can still kind of dodge him a little bit. Which also alludes to the fact that like it's always, I don't know if it's ever really known who's faster, Superman or the Flash. I think
the Flash has always been faster.
Yeah,
by just a little bit.
Only just.
Am I crazy? Was it at the end of the original Justice League film, or was it a different one where they have like a race?
That was in Smallville. I know that.
I think it's at the end of Justice League.
I think it was like an end credit.
It's like an end credit like goof thing where he's like, "All right, we're gonna figure out who's faster." Like it was just like them like goofing around,
joking around with him. He's like, "All right, you can go ahead and go. I'll catch up."
Yeah.
And then Flash is like, "I don't know if I actually want to find out."
Yeah. No, that was Justice League. Like I said, like the problem, I still appreciate the original Justice League cut for what it was. Like I enjoyed it watching it. The problem I have now is that watching the Snyder Cut, I was like, "Oh, you're just ruining that movie for me now." Like, this is just so much better than that, and I hate you for it. Like, I was like, man, I kind of liked this part, but then you were like, no, this is better. I'm like, yeah, it is.
It is.
But yeah, no, I think the
Snyder Cut was better.
The Snyder Cut was definitely better, but to that fight, right, where we were just talking about, they cut out the bit where Superman grabs Batman by the throat and is like, "Do you bleed?" Like they cut all that out, and then they added like where he threw the Flash into Aquaman.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty funny part. I actually like that. That's why when that happened, I was like, "Is this extended?"
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it ended after like he beat on the Flash for a little bit.
The whole like they cut out the bits where he like manhandles Batman and added the laser beam to his like energy absorbing gauntlets,
which I thought was a cool point.
And then
I also like the fact that like, okay, and I don't know if this was implied, but like this is what I took away from it. Like, so you have like all of them, the Flash, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and Aquaman, and they're all trying to beat on Superman, and they just have no luck. And then like it just turns to Batman, and he kind of just has his look on his face like, oh shit.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have his kryptonite suit.
Yeah.
So
like, he doesn't have his face like I brought
Ah.
a knife.
Like that's why like it made more sense and it was funnier to me for that same reason because like when he picks up the Flash and he's like, so what's your superpower? And he's like, I'm rich.
Yeah.
Like that's why like in that moment he was like, I'm just rich.
I see meatball.
Oof. This isn't gonna go well.
Like, guys, I'm just a dude in a
Yeah.
suit. Honestly, I'm
Oh no.
just the funding for
Yeah.
this whole operation. I was just gonna go get a cup of coffee.
Whoops.
I was hanging out with Joe, drinking this cup of coffee, and
Oh no.
So I will say, we were talking about Martian Manhunter a minute ago, and that kind of like end of the movie. Like, it wasn't an end credit scene. I guess it was just right before the credits rolled.
There was no.
Yeah, there was no credit scene.
But so the number one, the dream, I still had trouble following. I was like, I understand it was a dream and it was a nightmare, however you want to look at it. But like, I was like, I really don't understand what's happening here.
I feel like it didn't need to be there.
It didn't need to be there, but I think what they were doing was because I don't know for sure. I feel like they filmed it after the fact. But I'm not sure. But what I think what they were doing was since they leaned so heavily into the Flash reversing time, is that he created Flashpoint. Because the Joker makes a remark onto like how many timelines is it going to take you to realize that you can't win this or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Also,
I think it's
side
just
note-
an alternate timeline.
Also, side note, if Jared Leto had played that Joker
Oh, in
the whole entire
Suicide
time,
Squad,
I would have not had a problem with him
would have had no problem with it.
because I was like, "This is the Joker I wanted you to be."
Yeah. Creepy and dark. That's what I wanted. And you went weird and
deranged on his forehead.
Yeah.
So when Batman woke up from that whole, trip or whatever it was, and then went out and then walked outside, and then Martian Manhunter just kind of appeared, and he was like, "Who are you?" He was like, "Oh, I'm blah blah blah." He's like, "Oh, cool, welcome to the team." Like, I thought the dialogue there was probably the worst in the film because
That's
it
what
was
I'm saying. Like, it felt like Ben Affleck was just over it.
Yeah.
because like the rest of the film's dialogue actually made sense. But like, okay, if someone just appeared on your porch, especially like Batman being the skepticism person that he is, be like, "Who the crap are you? Like, get out of here!" Like, and he's like, you're cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, come join the team. Like, I don't know who you are, but let's be buds.
Well,
Like,
so
let's be friends.
I think that was a last minute addition. Like Tim was saying earlier, like I mean I don't know for sure. I haven't seen any confirmation, but I honestly haven't looked either. But it felt like a last minute addition, and it felt like they were just trying, like it was just Snyder trying to make sense of like, like I could see a big table right here with 6 chairs, and then they're like with room for more, and then John Jones, Martian Manhunter, shows up, and he just what is he gonna do at that point? He's like, I feel like you're right, like he's just over it, but I don't think it was necessarily Ben Affleck being over it. I think it was Bruce Wayne being over it.
Well, either that or like, in the beginning of the movie, like even Batman's like, I don't know why I'm doing the diplomatic thing about bringing everybody together.
Right.
And then towards the end of the movie, someone gives him credit like, this all wouldn't happen without you, Bruce. And then maybe he's just like, whatever. I guess I'm this guy now.
Yeah, I think that's just him just being like, yeah, sure. Like at that point, he's just waking up from a weird like vision into another timeline after just resurrecting an alien to help them fight another alien, and then he's just like, yeah, sure, you're a Martian Manhunter. Welcome to the team, bud. Like,
oh, you're from Mars? That's cool.
That's great.
We need help, man. There's like other aliens, dude.
I'm gonna go pour me a coffee. I'm gonna go pour me a whiskey with a little bit of coffee, and then I'm gonna go back to sleep.
At least you're part of the solar system, bruh.
Yeah.
Like,
I kind of know where you're from. Like, sure.
I know what Mars is.
Yeah.
I don't know what Krypton is. But yeah,
Yeah.
overall, it was much better.
Because it definitely felt like there was set up there for other movies. So I hope that there are other movies. in
Yeah.
the quote unquote Snyderverse. Because like I mean I liked Aquaman. It's not my favorite by any means. Partially because of the plot hole in Justice League.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, in Aquaman takes place after the Justice League, and Amber Heard's character acts like
Doesn't
she
know him.
doesn't know him even a little bit.
Yeah.
Wait, say that again.
Aquaman takes place after Justice League,
Right.
and Amber Heard's character from Justice League
Doesn't recognize
doesn't
him. Yeah.
recognize him or know him at all in Aquaman.
Well, at the beginning of Aquaman, he's like being reintroduced to the like Atlanta society. I don't think they grew up knowing each other.
No, but what I'm saying is
But she's in Justice
she's
League.
in Justice League, and her character essentially acts like that didn't happen, but they even reference Justice League in the movie.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So like it was a weird plot hole.
It's a continuity error.
Yeah.
It's kind of a massive one.
It's a massive continuity error where like they acknowledge the movie she's in without acknowledging that they ever met. So I don't know. That's really outside of the aspect ratio is that plot hole. That's the only thing that's ever bothered me when it comes to Justice League as a whole and the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts on the Snyderverse, Snyder Cut?
Hope that they let Zack Snyder continue making stuff if they're going to continue the DCEU. Because no offense to Joss Whedon, but he knows Marvel, and Zack Snyder seems to know the DC.
Yeah.
So I would put my money on him going forward, even though I know that, you know, he's been kind of hit and miss. You know, because there was the Owl movie. But overall, I think that's the person you should go with going forward.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, I guess, because I don't at this point really have a lot of faith in the higher ups' ability to make decisions on what's going to happen and what's not going to happen in the DCEU.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already basically planning for a Batman universe that will make the Snyderverse non-existent.
Well, I mean, not necessarily.
Unless it's a
Batman's
prequel.
always been its own weird thing where it's just existed outside of everything. So, I mean, they could potentially keep going, and they could potentially keep going with Joker, too.
We'll see.
So, I don't know. It's up to WB and I think HBO. I think they own part of WB now or something like that. Maybe
Probably they have a deal. They have a deal for sure.
maybe the Snyderverse will continue on HBO Max. That'd be interesting.
Sure.
All right. I think that's going to wrap this one up, guys. Thank you for listening. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at SKO Entertainers, or visit our website, www.skoentertainment.net, for more information on how to reach us and just information on what we're doing in general. It's constantly changing. Also, check out our YouTube channel. We've got all kinds of Resident Evil stuff going currently. It might slow down here and there just because of life, but always check back. There's probably something new. And finally, guys, don't forget to join us next week, because even on the best of days, we all need some kind of entertainment.
Bye.
See ya.
See you guys.